Howdy Hive Scum and welcome back. Now, I've recently done an awful lot of content on the new edition of Necromunda, and most recently we went through these two new books, the Gangs of the Outlands and the Gangs of the Underhive. Now, if you haven't watched those videos, they were basically an overview of all of the gangs for the new edition of Necromunda. Of course, that was a sort of first look at these gangs and my initial impressions on these gangs and how they work in the new rule set for 2026. Now, we've been through both of these books and we've talked through the overview of the gangs, but each of these books has a section at the back that contains something identical and something slightly different. If you've picked up Gangs of the Underhive only, the generic hangers-on, brutes and pets will be exactly the same as the ones that are in Book of the Outlands. However, Book of the Outlands contains some other rules for Dramatis Personae, and the Book of the Underhive contains rules for the Justicar delegation, which is an alliance. We're not going to talk through those today. I'll do a future video on alliances and Dramatis Personae. So let's start off with the generic hired guns, hangers-on, pets and brutes that you can get for every gang in Necromunda 2026. First off, the iconic Hive Scum. These guys are your regular mooks from Outcast gangs, and they are probably the most sort of generic fighter type in the whole of Necromunda. They make up the multitudes of teaming Underhivers. Now here's how hired guns and Dramatis Personae work in the new version of Necromunda. They are a balancing mechanic for underdog gangs, which is really, really awesome and very elegantly put. If one gang's rating is lower than their opponent's, instead of gaining additional gang tactics, they may add a Dramatis Personae with a credit value less than or equal to the difference in gang rating to their starting crew for free. If both players agree, they may each add a Dramatis Personae to their starting crews up to an agreed credit value limit for free. So for example, if two gangs have the same rating, but they've both got a few fighters missing from their crew, for example, and they just want to play a slightly longer game, you could agree with your opponent to maybe add 3 Hive Scum each just to make the game a little bit more interesting, a bit longer. It's a really simple and nice way to add extra models into your games of Necromunda, particularly all those beautiful Forge World models that we had over the last few years. Now you can have 0 to 4 Hive Scum total in each game, and they cost 30 credits to hire. Now each Hive Scum comes with 60 credits worth of free war gear from the Hive Scum equipment list that we'll go through in a minute. You don't have to pay that 60 credits, you get that 60 credits for free. However, it does count towards the gang or crew rating. A Hive Scum's profile is as follows. We have a movement 5, weapon skill, ballistic skill 4+, strength and toughness 3, 1 wound, initiative 3, 1 attack, save 6+, and 6s on all of the mental stats. It's worth mentioning, by the way, that the Hive Scum that you recruit as hired guns do not have the specialist subtype, so you cannot pick a specialization like you can for an Outcast gang. In terms of the equipment that you can get for these guys, it is very basic. It's auto guns, stub guns, auto pistols, las guns, shotguns, things like that as well. We've got combat shotguns and we've got lots of primitive weapons as well. Chain axes, chain swords, and a telescopic sight, for example, too. Even a hazard suit in here as well. That's basically the gist of Hive Scum. They are a really, really simple, awesome way to add extra fighters to your gangs in any game. And you're going to see these a lot in this edition of the game where we didn't necessarily before. A great, cheap leveling mechanic that does make a difference, just having extra fighters when you can back up your gang if you're the underdog. Now on to brutes. We've got 2 generic brutes that were absolute favourites in the last edition of the game. These 2 brutes are, of course, the Ambot and the Servitor Ogryn. These guys have changed a little bit, and I would say that they're slightly better now in some ways, but we'll go through and talk about why. Now, you can hire each of these brutes in any gang. There's no outlaw or law-abiding anymore, so any gang can have these. Corpse Grinder cults can have Ogryns, and so on and so forth. But the way that these guys work now is slightly different. We don't have rep factored in here. Instead, just make sure that the brutes, hangers-on, and champions are less than half of your total gang. Those 3 things, brutes are included in the mix there in terms of the gang balance. Your Luthen Pattern Excavation Automata, or also known as the Ambot, is 230 credits now. They have a movement of 4, so they're a little bit slow, a weapon skill 3+, and a ballistic skill 5+. Their strength toughness 5, 3 wounds, initiative 2, which is terrible, attacks 2, and a 4+ save, which is very nice indeed. The mental stats of an Ambot are leadership 6, 8 on the cool, 6 on willpower, and intelligence 5. Now they've got a bunch of special rules here. The first one is excavation automata, so they can actually perform a work territory post-battle action, just like one of your regular fighters. So this is the only brute that can actually do this. Ambots also come with the infiltrate skill because they dig their way onto the battlefield, which makes these guys far, far better than their stats. You know, having a low movement and initiative is one thing. It's pretty bad when you have to foot slog it across the board, but when you've got infiltrate, that does make the difference. Now they come with paired tunneling claws, but you can, for plus 40 credits, get an Ambot grav cutter. It says grav cutter in here. I'm sure it's not the Van Saar grav cutter because that would be a mess. I'm pretty sure that is a grav gun of some sort, but we'll look at that in a minute. You can also get, for 70 credits, the Ambot melter cutter as well, which again, hopefully is not some sort of weird melty hoverboard. The Servitor Ogryn as well here, he's 160 credits, so he's much, much cheaper than he was in the last edition. The Ambot and the Servitor Ogryn were around the same cost, actually, and the Ambot was just flatly so much better, so no one really took the Ogryn as much. Ogryns have had a glow up this edition, though. The movement 5, weapon skill 4+, and ballistic skill 5+, strength and toughness 5, 3 wounds, initiative 3, attacks 2, and a 5+ save. They've also got the mental stats of leadership 7, cool 8, willpower 6, and intelligence 5, because they are absolute big dummy dum-dums. Ogryns cannot be used in any group activation at all because they are slow-witted. And they come with the headbutt skill as well. Now they come with 2 augmetic fists, which are pretty good, but we also get, for 70 credits you can have an arc welder, for 70 credits you can have a storm welder, and for 20 credits you can have a spudjacker swapped out for one of those augmetic fists as well. So on top of the gang-specific brutes like the Gene Stealer Abominant or the Chaos Spawn, for example, or even the Chimerix for House Escher, these guys can be taken for anybody. So if you don't want to take the specific brute, the Piscean Spectre, etc., you can take an Ambot, you can take an Ogryn, and you can have your own version of a brute in your gang as well. It's worth mentioning as well that some of the gangs don't actually have a brute at the moment. Orlocks in particular don't have their servitor at the moment, at least until they get their journal anyway. So taking a Ogryn is probably a good option for them, for example. Also, I don't think that outcasts get a brute. So again, you could add an Ambot to an outcast gang. The next part to talk about are hangers-on. Now these have been stripped back immensely. In the last edition of the game, I did about 100 videos on hangers-on and Dramatis Personae. Hopefully I won't have to do individual videos on all of them again. For the moment though, we just have the generic types, and these are all based on the plastic hangers-on and hired guns that you get in the box set. There is a plastic box set that came out quite recently actually for these guys, and these are all the ones that are available to every gang. Now the first one is the Rogue Doc. This is your sort of squad medic. They are 90 credits. They have fairly bad stats, a bit like a sort of prospect really. So they're movement 5, weapon skill 5, ballistic skill 5. They're strength 2 because they're weedy little nerds. They've got toughness 3, wounds 1, initiative 3, and 1 attack with a 6+ save as well. The mental stats are 6, 8, 6, and 7 too. Now the Rogue Doc may perform either the medical escort or fit bionics post-cycle action as well. So these guys can do that. They can take it off your leader. So these guys do it instead of your leader, meaning that your leader can go and do a trade or something else. These actions cost 50 credits less than normal to a minimum of 0 credits. So pretty damn good. You hire this guy for 90 credits, and if he's with your gang, you get to do either of those 2 post-battle actions, and it's 50 credit reduction in the cost of it. Absolutely worth it. Also, if they play in a game, they have the Medicate skill built in as well. Now, Rogue Doc is equipped with a stub gun, a Medicae kit, and a Medi Skull, so they've got a little bit of gear on them, and for plus 5 credits, you can swap out their stub gun for a las pistol as well if you want a bit more reliability. 5 credits, why not? But overall, the Rogue Doc is absolutely worth the 90 credits. They used to be 50 in the old game, but they're now much better. The next core hanger-on here is the Ammo Jack. Now, they do exactly what they sound like, really. They are ammo suppliers for your gang. So they're 100 credits. They're not cheap, that's for sure, and they have a stat profile as follows. So they've got movement 5, weapon skill 4+, and ballistic skill 3+, so they're pretty good shooters, really. Strength, toughness 3, wounds 1, initiative 2, so very low initiative there. 1 attack, and a 5+ save, which is pretty nice. 6, 7, 7, 7 for the mental stats there as well. Now these guys can perform a unique post-cycle action, which is called the overcharge action, and it reads as follows. Select one ranged weapon equipped by a fighter in the same gang as this fighter without the unstable trait. Until the end of the next cycle, increase the strength of one of the weapon's profiles by 1 and give it the unstable trait. So you get to give a weapon +1 strength, but you get unstable, which is bit of a weird one, and honestly I'm not sure I'm going to use it most of the time. But you know, if you think of a las gun, for example, suddenly the las gun is strength 4 but it's unstable, just get a hotshot pack. Now the ammo jack does come with the munitioneer skill, which is a pretty damn good skill to be fair as well, and they are armed with a combat shotgun with salvo and shredder, a power sword, and may select the below options when added to the gang roster as well. For +15 credits they can swap out their combat shotgun for a bolt gun, and for free they can replace their power sword with a power hammer, which is probably my new favourite power weapon. So all in all, the ammo jack is pretty decent, but I don't think provides quite as much value as the Rogue Doc anymore. The next one is the Dome Runner, a fantastic model, I have to say, and this one has changed quite a bit from the last edition of the game. They are now 50 credits. Their stats are a bit like a prospect, really. So movement 5, weapon skill, ballistic skill 5, strength and toughness 3, 1 wound, initiative 4, because they're a little bit more nippy, 1 attack and a 6+ save, with a 6 and 777 on the mental stats there as well. These guys come with the clamber and catfall skills as well. And the special rule for a Dome Runner in your gang is as follows, and it is really good if you ask me. After deployment, but before the first roll for priority, if a Dome Runner is on the battlefield, D3 friendly fighters may move a distance equal to their initiative characteristic. Fighters may only move due to the special rule once per battle. So this is already good, particularly for fighters with high initiative, as you get the drop on your opponent. But where this gets really, really brutal is when you team it up with some infiltrating fighters. If you have this on a nomad gang, for example, and you have 3 hunters that have already infiltrated onto the board, suddenly those infiltrators can all move 4 inches into a better position. You could infiltrate them into a, horrible sort of corner with a venom caster or something, and then move them out, get the initiative, and immediately start attacking with your template weapons. Things like that. There's a lot of room for shenanigans, and I actually think that the Dome Runner is a flipping good addition now. Now, the Dome Runner comes with a stub gun and a fighting knife, but for free you can swap out for a las pistol, which is a bit weird really, because it costs the Rogue Doc 5 credits to do so. However, you could also swap out for a long las for +35 credits, which I think is probably worth it. I think long las are very good in this game, and we've also got the axe instead of fighting knife for 15 credits as well. The next hanger-on is your Slopper, and there are 2 brilliant models for this. In fact, 3 if you count Big B Crumb as well, but his rules aren't out yet. The Slopper is the chef for your crew, and he's movement 4, weapon skill, ballistic skill 4+, so pretty average there. Strength and toughness 3, wounds 1, initiative 4, and attacks 1 and save 6+, with a 6 and a 777 on his mental stats, just like the Dome Runner. Now the Slopper is 45 credits, and they have these special rules. Grubs up, so offering food is a very powerful method for recruiting new fighters. Sloppers may add 20 credits to the gang's stash as a post-cycle action. So they're a bit like a fixer now, really. You pay 45 credits to have one in your gang, but every single time that you play a game, you get 20 credits back. So they pay for themselves in just over 2 games. Now the next special rule is well fed, and what this means is if a Slopper is on the battlefield, once per battle you can force your opponent to re-roll the dice when rolling lasting injuries. Now the Slopper has no built-in skills at all, but they come with a fighting knife, and that is absolutely it. The last hanger-on here for the generic ones anyway is the Hive Watcher, and this is 30 credits, and it's a fantastic model, a floating sort of weirdo with a sort of telescope there as well. This guy's movement 4, weapon skill and ballistic skill 5, strength toughness 3, 1 wound, initiative 4, attacks 1, and a save of 6+ as well. The mental stats are leadership 6, cool and willpower 7, and an intelligence of 8, so they're a bit smarter than most of the others. Now they come with the clamber and lie low skills, and while a Hive Watcher is on the battlefield, enemy fighters using the infiltrate skill or arriving on the battlefield via reinforcements must be set up 3 inches further away from the gang's fighters than usual. This is a sort of nice little bubble of denial for infiltrators and stuff, for Nachtghouls, for any infiltrators as well, or any reinforcements arriving, you push them 3 inches further back, which is pretty nice. It's a sort of direct counter, I suppose, to the Dome Runner, in fact, in some ways. So it's exactly the opposite of that, really. Now, he comes with just a las pistol, and that is it. But otherwise, I'd say for 30 credits, it's pretty good. But you're not always going to be playing against gangs that have infiltrate, and you're not always going to have reinforcements either. So there will be some games where this guy does absolutely nothing. But honestly, for 30 credits, it's pretty good, right? Okay, lastly, we are onto the generic pets. And this is where things get really exciting, because we have giant rats, Militaurs and Ripperjacks available to all gangs as pets for your leaders and champions. Now, it wouldn't be Necromunda without giant rats now, would it? And for 45 credits, you can recruit a giant rat for your leaders and champions as a generic pet. Giant rats have the following profile. They're movement 5, weapon skill 4+, and ballistic skill 5+, strength and toughness 3, 1 wound, initiative 4, and 1 attack with a 6+ save. So very average sort of fighter profile. Their mental stats are 6, 7, 6, 5 as well, which is a weird one because rats are actually really smart. I've had a pet rat, they're very, very smart. They have a leash range of 3 inches, which is very typical for nearly all pets, and they are outland beasts as well. So only leaders and champions can be equipped with giant rats, and they may purchase giant rats as if they were on the gang equipment list. This is the same rule, by the way, for all 3 of these types, so I'm not going to repeat that one. The other one is never more than 1 meter from a rat. During the update roster step of the post-battle sequence, if any giant rats are deleted from a model's card, they may be replaced by a new one at no cost. I love this special rule. Basically, you're always going to have a giant rat. Sure, you might have one that levels up and gets a few skills and stat increases and things like that. But if they die, you get a brand new one. I love it. It's brilliant. You only ever pay 45 credits once. In terms of equipment, they come with Bite. We're going to look at that in a second when we look at the actual weapons for these guys. The next one is the Militaur. Now, these guys are really creepy looking worms, and they are flipping awesome as well in the game. They're 95 credits, so they're nearly double the price of a giant rat. And again, your leaders and champions can have these guys, and they are part of your house list for all games. They're movement 6, so they're actually faster than a rat, which is a bit weird considering they're basically a giant slug, but hey ho, I'm not going to argue with it. 4+ weapon skill, 5+ ballistic skill, strength, toughness 3, and 2 wounds, which is really important. Initiative 3 and 2 attacks, which is also really important. 5+ save as well, so a pretty good save there. They are also 6s on all their mental stats with a 5 on intelligence, and they have a 6-inch leash range, so they are a longer leashed than a rat. Now, they're also burrowing, which means that they can move under solid terrain, provided that they don't finish their movement under that terrain. So they have to come out the other side, which is really, really good, because if there's a wall and you want to just charge someone through a wall, you can absolutely do that by burrowing underneath. In terms of equipment, they come with a fanged maw, which is exactly what it sounds like. Lastly, we have the indomitable Ripperjack, which looks like a giant flying fanny. These guys are super, super creepy, and they're 85 credits, and they have the stats as follows. 7-inch movement, which is super fast. Their weapon skill 4+, and ballistic skill 6+. They've also got strength, toughness 3, again 2 wounds. They've got 4 initiative, which is great, attacks 2, and a 6+ save. Their mental stats are 6, 8, 5, and 6, and the Ripperjack also has a 6-inch leash range. Now, these guys are solitary hunters, meaning that they never gain the benefit of an assist or grant assists to other fighters. Weird that we're talking about giant greeblies when I just saw what I thought was a huge spider just run across the floor just then. I am living in Australia, though, which is pretty horrendous, so bear with me while I deal with that. Right, so the next special rule is the enveloping attack. When an enemy fighter is engaged with a Ripperjack, performs the retreat action, they must first make an agility test. So it's a 4+ for most people. If the test is successful, they may perform the action as usual, but if they do not, they are stuck and remain engaged, which is pretty cool. So you can lock people in combat with this nasty big flapping thing. Now, the Ripperjack is armed with the weapon that is known only as teeth. Let's have a quick look at some of the unique weapons and war gear for some of these hangers-on. Firstly, we have the Ambot Grav Cutter, which is not to be confused with the Van Saar Grav Cutter. It is a 12-inch maximum range, lethality 2, blast 3 inches graviton weapon. So pretty nasty, really, if it does hit you. Remember, he's got crap ballistic skill, though. The Ambot Melter Cutter is 8 inches maximum, and it's strength 6, -2 AP, lethality 2, damage 2, and ammo 6+. We've also got Bite, Fanged Maw, and Teeth are as follows. The Bite, which is on the rat, is just a melee attack with nothing. Melee, should I say, with absolutely no traits whatsoever. The Fanged Maw, which the Militaur has, is Toxin 4+, so a little bit different to, say, a needle pistol. It is 4+, but 2 attacks. It's a decent creature. And then Teeth on the Ripperjack is a lethality 2. So they have a slightly higher damage weapon, otherwise no traits. So that's the general first impressions and overview of all of the generic brutes, pets, hangers-on, and hive scum that you can get for all of your gangs. So you can include these guys, all of the ones that I've mentioned in this video, in a starting roster. You don't have to worry about rep anymore. You just have to worry about the ratio of non-brutes champions and what was the other one? Can't remember. Dramatis Personae, I suppose, to other fighters. So basically it just means that as long as you don't go over half with these things, you're all good. So pretty cool. You know, you could add a bunch of Ogryns to any gang. You could add a bunch of Millisors to any gang as pets as well. Pretty awesome. And I love the fact that the rules are basically wide open for you to just go crazy with these things. Food for thought here. Outcast giant rat as your leader with 21 pet giant rats, because there are no maximums to pets. So you can have a rat with 21 pet rats. That's your gang list. And I'll leave you on that note. Stay tuned, and I will be back with another video real soon. Thanks for watching.